GrandXur have the stuff to dethrone these giants.
Just a few seconds out from doors open as well. Looking at the Hong Kong Attitude side of things, wondering if Perfect is indeed going to stay onto their May, and this is going to be one of those adaptations going into Control Center where expecting Orion Goats on the other side, bringing out a May to potentially counter that.
I really like this as well. It takes a big chunk to start with, but survives, and that's critical because they have it. They're able to isolate Papillon on the Reinhardt and finish him off. That is exactly what they wanted, and now without the Reinhardt shield there, they can just kind of rout everyone else. They only get the one extra kill, so good retreat by GrandXur, but point about to belong to Hong Kong Attitude as it unlocks.
Hamzy's going to get caught out here as well, so this is going to be a bit of a late kill. Just giving Hong Kong Attitude a bit more time, and this is really where May starts to shine. When you get the spawn camp going, you have this very small choke that GrandXur now must try and fight through. They don't have ultimates just yet. Ting is the closest so far. Hong Kong Attitude have really set themselves up to get a lot more progress now.
Hugo just sitting tight, waiting in the wings again. Catch on Papillon. I'm not even, I mean, I think it must have been the wall going down just based on where he died. And if not, they catch on Hamzy. These two tank players just cannot catch a break. They're going to get the stagger on the silver coin as well. He's actually going to swap off and then swap back onto the D.Va in the spawn, which resets that ult charge.
So at this sort of space now where if you are GrandXur, you need to start considering maybe do we have to play our own mate here to try and counter the wall. You put up your own wall, that kind of blocks line of sight from Hong Kong Attitude. Decisions need to be made soon. They're going to go for the flank. Hong Kong Attitude will respond immediately. And now we have to play with ults as well.
Oh man, tried to fake it out as well. That one wasn't the smoothest ult, the wall I mean rather, but these ults, they are somewhat smooth. Look at the connection here on all these members, and just enough damage coming out from that Blizzard, the Fire Strike, the swing of the hammer, and a gong rings out. Hong Kong Attitude, even not that expensive, all things considered. Ting's charged up another Earth Shatter.
It's been 50% so far on that progression clock for GrandXur now. Waiting for some next ults to come up. Papillon and Hamzy in particular need to get these big tank ultimates because on the side of Hong Kong Attitude, they've used plenty.
And there it is again. They cut off Papillon and Hamzy both this time. The team's going to make sure it gets finished off. Hamzy did escape back through the wall. They were able to chuck down one little bit of it, but that's still a numbers disadvantage. And Hong Kong Attitude, they hold all the keys to the kingdom here. A Ting did drop an Earth Shatter in there, but you don't mind it when it's like kind of like a free one that he charged up and it's still got those support ultimates.
Sort of also the stage where GrandXur basically haven't seen the point since that opening fight.
Oh,
decent
no.
entry, but they've lost Hugo on the other side.
And that's so rough. They already go into a 5 versus 6. There is very few Earth Shatters that will ever be good enough to overcome that, and certainly that one from Papillon was not
game over.
It is already at the 96, 7, 8% mark. It's going to be a fully fledged shutout and a spawn camp to boot. The Maze strat absolutely working wonders for Hong Kong Attitude.
It's ironically a control style that wins on Control Center here. Hong Kong Attitude, once again, never allowing GrandXur to leave their spawn location, to leave their base, even see the point. You do start to think for GrandXur, most teams at that point maybe start to go on their own May counter, maybe play something like a Sombra to get some flank pressure onto the actual point. Get Hong Kong Attitude away from the choke point. Allow your team to get through the choke point, and that's the only way you can kind of overcome that wall pressure. But going on to Night Market, GrandXur going to have the ability now to try and turn things back around. Well, this is going to be a very early Hong Kong Attitude lead in the series.
I feel like the Doomfist is kind of predicting another GrandXur Goats, and this would be their answer on Night Markets when the May doesn't quite work the same way. But GrandXur are going to be playing that out. I was wondering if they'd actually run a Mercy in the pocket of the Pharah, and there it comes out now. They're going to be running the Pharah and Sombra. I wouldn't be surprised if Perfect changes off if he doesn't get a lot of early impacts, because this should slowly start to muscle out the Goats. We're already seeing that now. Hong Kong Attitude forced back, taking too many shots, and Hamzy flanking out as well.
Hong Kong Attitude just going to bite the bullet here. They do need to change. Perfect onto the McCree. This one pick is going to do wonders against both Hamzy and Heimish on their DPS picks. The other option is Hong Kong Attitude could have probably have just rotated onto the point directly and fought indoors, but they want to play the safe option. The point is going to go over to GrandXur though.
Good discipline from Hong Kong Attitude. They do that change knowing they'll lose the point. Now they rotate onto it. And this is all about, I mean, it's basically Super McCree, right? Protect the McCree. Keep him alive. He will keep Heimish pressured off the point. They will be able to have the flank pressure, the anti-flank pressure rather, on Hamzy. And even in losing Mango Jai, because they've got the higher pressure, because GrandXur cannot engage directly, they can't really get onto this point. Nice flashbang bang. They're going to be able to get the follow up on that. And the team finds Silvercoin D-Max with that Fire Strike. And even though those DPSs stayed alive, Mango Jai died early, Hong Kong Attitude have no trouble sitting tight for that one. Nice.
It's just an awkward engage from GrandXur as well. You can see how long it took them. Deadeye is going to clean up more members, just more stagger kills that GrandXur have to wait for. And they even had the opening pick onto Mango Giant. That was a 6 versus 5 scenario. They had the rocket barrage coming up as well. But because Heimuch got chunked out, because he took too much damage, GrandXur could not engage, and Hong Kong Attitude found the picks to swing things around.
It's such a treat as well to see Perfect back on a DPS, back on the McCree especially. I mean, this entire team comp is just about enabling him, and Perfect is one of those players, if you can enable him on something like the McCree, he will pay back dividends. Hamzy now looking at the translocator in, the EMP out as well. Mango Jai does not have a Transcendence, even if he did certainly can't use it. And I think Hong Kong Attitude know that this fight is all but done, especially with Heimuch getting
they are going to commit to this one.
They're deciding to go for it, actually. Then it's because they've still got Perfect alive. He can still dish out the damage. They've also forced now 3 ultimates out of GrandXur. Marlon's still going down. Deadeye's able to pick up Hugo. So Hong Kong Attitude using just the Rally Transcendence and Deadeye hold on to the point while GrandXur used everything they had.
And not only that, but they had control of the point as well, so it's worthwhile to try and stall things out. They can fight 5 versus 6. They had Transcendence coming up online, and for Hong Kong Attitude, even if they lose, they got a lot of percentage on the board. They still have a huge progression lead against GrandXur, who are now going to make a more or less a full swap on the goats.
And this is going to be tough for Tings coming up on an Earth Shatter. Papillon's already popped Primal Rage. They're just keeping pressure on him already. Chunked out to heart. BK is low, but they can't get the follow-up damage. They need to start taking this fight to the point, and that's with Primal Rage having just run out as they get onto it. Nearly stealing a cap. Nice Earth Shatter stealth.
A lot of kills.
Huge one from Perfect to scoop up everyone flat on their backs. This self-destruct is going to get nothing with a Ting shield in front of it, and a nice, clean, simple 2-0 for Hong Kong Attitude. If you don't count that 10% that GrandXur got on Night Market because of Hong Kong Attitude's swap, that's almost a double shutout.
And that's the Hong Kong Attitude that we expected to show up early on today in this quarterfinal. Very different to what we saw in yesterday's quarterfinals as well. If you consider who wins these opening maps, it's been the underdog teams that have won those. Cyclone Coupling got Lee Jung of Talent. Nova Esports got Lee Jung of GE Pantheon. But this time, it's going as expected, probably from the pre-game discussion here. Hong Kong Attitude taking a very early lead and a very dominant one as well. 2-0, 200% to 10%.
And it's time for all the power rankers to breathe a sigh of relief, right? This does feel like what we should see when a first seed plays against a fourth seed. Like, Cyclone Coupling was its own little thing. Like, you'd almost not call them a fourth seed in terms of the power ranking, but this time, it does feel like order has been restored, right? Hong Kong Attitude are just looking very good, very clean, very collected, and it looks like they've got a plan for everything. They're not going to let something like a Doomfist variation throw them for a loop this time. They are ready.
And things get tricky as well, because if we do somehow end up in a map 5 situation, GrandXur bringing things back around to force us all the way to that tiebreaker, you do start to think as well, that's going back onto control map. Once again, on previous quarterfinals, it's been the team that wins the first control map that also then won that 5th map, which was also control, and that was the underdog team. This time around, if you get there, you're thinking, Hong Kong Attitude probably just shut this one out anyway. It's seeming less and less likely. I know it's just based on one map, but that was one map that tells you a lot about how this match could go.
It was very clean, very, very clean. I mean, I'm not going to be stupid enough to call it all so early, but we move into Hybrid next up. It is on GrandXur to answer, right? It's on GrandXur to change things up there. I mean, they were either being beaten out compositionally, even when they were in good situations, they were struggling. They were never making compositional change-ups. They look like they don't have that capacity right now. They don't have that depth of compositions they've planned to run here. Hong Kong Attitude, on the other hand, do, at least for control. I would like to imagine that that's going to remain the same for Hybrid, which means there's going to have to be a big step up in just the flat gameplay from GrandXur if they're not willing to play some kind of compositional macro game to maybe out-strategize Hong Kong Attitude.
What we are seeing, though, in terms of the strategy you mentioned, on that macro level, on that counter composition level, is Hong Kong Attitude for basically 2 of those rounds in a row. We started out with the Ryan Goats versus Ryan Goats, but with the May variation on the Hong Kong Attitude side, they are reading into what is likely being played on their opponent's opening comp, and it's probably very likely they are going to come up with the Ryan Goats. That's a very normal pick, and they heavily, heavily punish GrandXur, who could not adapt to the May pressure that was coming through on that chokehold. Going into map number 2, though, similar things we may end up seeing especially, you know, between attacks and defenses. Different comps are very viable at different places. GrandXur now have to do a lot of adaptations. And the next game mode coming up is going to be hybrid. So let's go ahead and find out a little bit more about how this one works.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
That's hybrid, all explained for you guys as we now are about to head into map number 2. It's been decided Numbani is coming up next. We should be heading to this one pretty much straight away.
Not going to waste any time on that. We saw Numbani last night, of course, in our opening match as well. So far, just kind of following those same beats. And in that one, it was Talon taking it out. So let's see if Hong Kong Attitude can repeat the success, push us to match point.
The reason I bring up counter compositions is because once again it's Hong Kong Attitude kind of dictating this very early phase of the game, and it's sort of a different to the way I predicted. I thought Hong Kong Attitude probably would play more Goats, but they are now going to start things off with a pharmacy combo and Perfect on the Doomfist. So once GrandXur has spotted this, big questions come up. How do they handle it?
I do think this would be a little stronger against the Wayne Goats, and GrandXur are running a Winston Goats. It's still relatively strong. Perfect though, early catch, so GrandXur happy to keep this one going. It's all on Shaolin, but he is getting good spam damage, really holding up GrandXur, but not finalizing kills, and without Perfect, it's harder to go back in. It's got a close respawn, but CQB's down now as well. That's no reses available, and the healing out of the pocket of Shaolin makes things a lot more risky.
And this has been one kill after the another for GrandXur, who are now taking control of the point. Once they're going over already, Hong Kong Attitude cannot get 6 members.
And they've lost all their kill pressure at this point. Perfect going down now for a second time. The Nano Boost just came available from Mango Chai. Hong Kong Attitude see the writing on the wall and retreat.
That was just one kill after another. Started out with Perfect, who is still down, which means GrandXur is going to go on the offensive. If they pick up something else here as well, it's going to make things very difficult for Hong Kong Attitude to begin a defense on 2B. But one punish stunned the snowball effect, and GrandXur off one attempt. Now give that A cap, now start moving through. Shaolin keeping the barrage with this pharmacy combo going strong. Perfect is going to make the change onto Azaria.
Yeah, it's a bit tough. They clearly want to shift to Goats, but they still want to use the Rocket Barrage, which means they still want to have the Mercy in the pocket. So now they're committing that one out. It doesn't get too much. Silvercoin largely able to absorb that. Does force a Transcendence, but Hamzy now coming up on a Graviton Surge. GrandXur still a momentum on their side, and pick a Ting as well.
99%.
Pretty close to their Primal Rage. Very tough break. VK as well, getting D-Meg just before the self-destruct. Now is Shining getting picked. I think we will see Hong Kong Attitude make the full shift to Goats. In fact, going over to a Rhine Goats.
And this is where, for Hong Kong Attitude, just a little bit of compositional confusion, like you sort of mentioned there, wanting to play the barrage, but otherwise trying to swap over. GrandXur, they're now starting to roll into these ults. Papillon probably keeps the Primal Rage here, tries to get a a bit of distance before then swapping onto Ryan, but Hong Kong Attitude have now also given up B off a 1 in 10 push from GrandXur, who have not been stopped so far for this entire offense.
Very rough. That one compositional boo-boo, in fact, expecting the Ryan and seeing the Winston instead, has cost Hong Kong Attitude the bulk of this map thus far. This is the junction where they've really got to start turning things around, and with this grab out and all the other ultimates in pocket, going to be a very tough ask. Self-destruct forward from BK gives them a bit of breathing room to work with, but now Primal Rage in the back line, Papillon's going to be able to absolutely bully these low health members. GrandXur, they just keep the momentum on their side here.
And the problem for Hong Kong Attitude is because they're still changing. They've only just recently in that last engagement probably played a Ryan Goats. They're far behind in Ultimates Perfect. They're slowly getting towards that first Graviton Surge, but GrandXur have been holding on to defense ultimates this entire time because they have not been losing. Once they start losing, they are forced to use sound barriers and transcendences, but until that happens, GrandXur will continue pushing strong.
This is going to be a really interesting fight. We do have Perfect coming close up to a Graviton. Hugo's got a Transcendence. Jai has one of his own. Self-destruct forward from Silvercoin is going to be the opener of the fight. Good displacement. They find a Ting grab to come out now. Hugo does get in the mix with that Transcendence, keeps everyone alive. CQB pop as well. And again, GrandXur keep the momentum going. Hong Kong Attitude now just enough time to reset one last time. That's only if Shaolin gets back to base. He does not.
Very rough position right now. Ting maybe gets the shadow, so you could be the barrier as well. We get a lot more picks coming up from Hong Kong Attitude, and Perfect's not looking too happy.
He's got a lot of charge in pocket, but not a lot of health on the board. And with that, it feels like it's the last gasp for Hong Kong Attitude. They might get one last bit of contest. And Ting will sorely need an Earth Shatter. He's not quite got it, and he will need to connect it as well. Now, Mango Jai trying to come out of the base, already too low, and a Ting did not get there in time. That felt like one compositional hiccup with losing the first point, and then a really patchy change kind of cost Hong Kong Attitude the entire map.
And this has been a very dominant response by GrandXur as well. It's a one-and-done push straight from A all the way through to C. The only stop up there was in the middle of the C push where they wanted to change Papillon onto a Rhine, waiting for that respawn, waiting for the regroup. But aside from that, it was just one consolidated play. Now, I'm not going to read too hard into that first composition because you don't regularly expect the Ryan Goats to come through on point A. It's usually going to be the Winston style that's going to come from the offense, but you are also playing a bit more of an aggressive DPS comp here where you do need to get a Doomfist in there. The bigger problem was how that was executed. The fact that Perfect was called out early, there was no response kill. GrandXur then got on top of the point. CQB goes down next. That really heavily impacts Shailin's ability to get aggressive as the fire because now there is no mercy pocket. Once that happens, another player falls, and Hong Kong Attitude just never have the 6 members to properly contest against GrandXur's 6 members, and that snowballed all the way from A to B to then C.
Bit of a snafu, I would dare say. Hong Kong Attitude, though, I feel like they're a better team than what we just saw. I do expect them to still be able to successfully attack here. So what they now need to be doing is to push it into Time Bank, where honestly GrandXur have basically what you'd have to attack point A usually anyway. So if Hong Kong Attitude, even if they only get a couple of minutes, as long as they can get it into Time Bank, they still have a good winnable situation, potentially.
And likely for Hong Kong Attitude as well, they need to start planning for a Time Bank deficit. Going to be very difficult to actually get more than 407 here. Quick sleep onto Silvercoin will be interesting to see if Hong Kong Attitude can they capitalize. It looks like they can.
Yeah, nice catch straight onto him. D-Mech, and that is early opener. This is a huge numbers advantage. And when you consider GrandXur as well, they've only got the Winston here. They've got a lot less shielding potential on the whole. Going to be a lot easier for Perfect to find good targets now to damage.
This is exactly the kind of start that Hong Kong Attitude do need. Silvercoin's back, behind Mish is down. They're still on 5 members.
Yeah, and they tried to get power onto a Ting there. They tried to finish him off, but just couldn't quite. The healing was too much. And you don't have someone like Silvercoin who could duck in and out, get that last bit of damage with the missiles or something like that, and it is all fallen apart for GrandXur. So Hong Kong Attitude going to cap A in what I would say is a comparable time.
Very much so, and Hong Kong Attitude need this kind of very quick push, very quick cap to be able to contest what is a 407 time back for GrandXur. Now the story moves on to B and C. Can Hong Kong Attitude continue the momentum, much like GrandXur did, because that's the only way they're going to get a comparable time.
Big difference is GrandXur, unlike Hong Kong Attitude on the B defense, don't need to make big compositional changes. Only change was moving Papillon over onto the Reinhardt.
And that's a setup for C as well. Even when GrandXur lose B, assuming they lose B, they can set up for C quite nicely. Hamish has has to watch out for the HP as Perfect is now building up very close to the EMP.
Yeah, nearly got the force there, nearly got the kill. Forced him to at least turn around and then kind of split this team up. Good hold for the time being. GrandXur, slow honking attitude down, but now they back up straight into an EMP. Quick follow-up, Papillon's dropped, and the rest will surely fall fast after that. It feels like it's just a matter of time. Holding on for a fair while, and Hugo, he's still hacked, but they nearly survived long enough to get a Transcendence. That may be going to turn things around, but no, they are going to keep the payload rolling.
But you do see where GrandXur took that fight, which was on the actual payload. You say they get the payload rolling, but it's rolling from a starting location. There's not been a lot of momentum here because GrandXur forced a very slow, very late fight, waiting a long time for Perfect's EMP to come through. Fight happened on the card as well, which means no movement for the payload for that entire duration. The difference now means GrandXur can take a secondary fight onto B.
And that's really important, but all straight into it. Things Earth Shatter. The follow-up, even with that Transcendence, they still find High-Mesh. Force Papillon back as well, which just keeps things opened up. Nice hack out, should be able to finish him off. There we go, and Ting swings it forward, finds that one. And now even with those few ultimates, GrandXur started to bank up. I mean, Hong Kong Attitude have never had a huge ultimate lead anyway. They've just got more mileage out of the ones they've used, and with that, they will cap point B as well. Still relatively unstopped.
Well, we've both got about 1 minute and 20 now to see if Hong Kong Attitude can match this time, but it's starting to look a little unlikely despite all this momentum. GrandXur now have grab, they now have options. At this point in the defense for Hong Kong Attitude, they had none of these ultimates. It's going to be the EMP again that is going to be very much decisive of how this next fight goes.
It's a very interesting situation. That's a very aggressive grab out on both sides of that one. Self-destruct does not get the connection. Instant move forward. High-Mesh a bit too slow to move backwards there. Now Hamzy as well as Hong Kong Attitude move for a rout. And that's with just a couple of ultimates used on either side. The key preserved tool there is the EMP from Perfect.
We're still waiting for Malin. You see the reason Perfect goes for Malin is he wants to make sure that once the EMP comes down, Malin's not going to be able to counter it with a sound barrier. So if he took that 1v1 Hong Kong Attitude, they win the 5v5 on the side, and now the EMP is ready to go. In fact, they don't even need it.
We've got a Charlie 90 here, folks. But that's phenomenal. Look at the time bank here. Hong Kong Attitude actually have more time on the board by some 30 seconds as well. That is unbelievable.
29-second difference. And that's the 29 seconds that, unfortunately for GrandXur, if they just went onto the point, that would have been enough. They would have been able to get that. It's a very unfortunate way to finish things off at the end.
Not sure what happened there. A little bit of a boo-boo, to say the least. But I'll be honest, I don't know that I expected them to win that fight either. Perfect had a great angle on an EMP as it was. There were a lot of very high-impact ultimates in the bank for Hong Kong Attitude. GrandXur had some, but EMP kind of negates what they have. So for, I don't know, I think on the whole, Hong Kong Attitude had got so much mileage out of each of their ultimates up to that point. I would have expected that fight to go the same.
The point here being, though, they would have had a worse time than GrandXur because it would have taken, I would say, more than potentially, because there is also a respawn advantage to deal with here, and GrandXur would have been able to shave easily more than 29 seconds off the clock should Hong Kong Attitude cap. Regardless, this would then be a GrandXur favored time bank where they got more time to work with. Hong Kong Attitude at a deficit, but unfortunately, things go so poorly on that C defense for GrandXur, despite putting themselves in good position, having ultimates, just didn't contest the point. Now we are into time bank, and it's going to be the opposite here. Hong Kong to get to defend first, GrandXur get to attack 407.
Saving grace is, I mean, things went so poorly for both teams on the defense that actually these time bank times are pretty comparable. Like 30 seconds difference is not a whole lot. Whether or not GrandXur would have burned a lot of time off the clock, it's kind of moot. Luckily for them, early Made Wall up on the defense, trying to isolate, nearly finding Hugo, but he's able to slip away to the side. And the counter pressure on VK did force them out a little bit. Now, Hong Kong Attitude trying to occupy some low ground.
There's a good bio coming through as well. Ting's going to get punished here. GrandXur, excellent patience, and now they can collapse.
Yeah, and this is just flat out aggression. They pressure out BK. They've actually found Shailin in the mix. As because the tanks can't play as defensively, these walls, they're not doing too much. They're really just allowing Perfect to stall a little bit with Silvercoin on that high ground. Even that little corner spot isn't safe for him. This is fast becoming an absolute rout. Again, first push cap from the attacker.
You've got late resetting members as well at Ting who respawn at that close spawn. has to just take a dive off the map, and we're once again seeing this kind of defense where waiting for Shailen's damage to come through onto the Pharah, but they just don't get it in there because for GrandXur, they were waiting for the big cooldowns. Maywall was used, didn't get anybody caught in. Bionade was used as well. Couple members got caught, but Hong Kong Attitude could not capitalize on that damage, could not capitalize on that debuff effect, and so for GrandXur, didn't lose anyone. Punish one of the divers, yet again, just like they got perfect last time, they get a ting now.
Saving grace for Hong Kong Attitude. This time they will not make the same mistake twice. They are onto the goats. They are at a deficit still. A ting getting picked early, so we should just see GrandXur pushing Hong Kong Attitude back. But this time they could well get a shot at a second one. Late death on VK, not
but that was
doing there, but
that was a delay on the cut though, so VK is trying to buy some time for a team to get back onto the point. They are banking on a secondary defensive fight onto B. They didn't get that last time. They need to try and get it this time around, but they do actually have to set up for this.
They're not committing to it. They're actually going to let this one go. And this is right. I wish they'd gone for it because now GrandXur, they get the point cap for free and they still have an ultimate advantage. Hong Kong Attitude could have at least burned some of those ultimates off GrandXur, maybe come into this fight a bit more even, but let's leave that in the past now because Hong Kong Attitude trying to square up for this next fight. It's going to be GrandXur eventually committing a grab self-destruct combo, and that's if they don't just pick out members. Too late on the Transcendence from Mango Jai. Perfect's already down. Now it's just a matter of time for GrandXur to start closing it out.
Waiting for the Graviton Surge from Hamzy as well. It's going to catch one. Getting a ting here is just going to continue the player advantage. Silvercoin nearly went down there with the mech. Doesn't quite happen though for GrandXur. It's basically a one ultimate push for them. Just the Graviton Surge is going to be enough. Hong Kong Attitude trying to survive in there. Transcendence already used, waiting for Sound Barrier to defend now against the Earth Shadow. But for GrandXur, double support ultimates. 2 tanks got ultimates as well. They're on the warpath and they should be able to cap.
Much slower on the cart this time around, but GrandXur still have a big advantage. They're able to preserve a lot of ultimates here, so Hong Kong Attitude are absolutely behind
2 whiffs.
The A4. Yeah, that's a little unfortunate. Suddenly that advantage no longer a factor, and the grab self-destruct combo doesn't quite find anything. Sound Barrier in there, keeping people relatively safe. Charge goes wide from Papillon, catches the corner of the cart. A ting going down again, though, as he was channeling the Shatter, and I think it didn't end up finishing either. Papillon, though, traded back, and Hong Kong Attitude had the respawn advantage. Losing Shailen's a tough break. Perfect with the charge, is trying to do what damage he can, but you see Hamzy coming up on a grab here, and that could be the end-all be-all of the fight. There is no VK mech to stop that. They survive it, though. The follow-up damage wasn't quite there. Mango Jai had the Transcendence. Heimish gets picked out now, and that's a ting with the closer respawn becoming a factor once again in the fight. GrandXur are forced to back up.
We'll see if they can maybe force a Graviton Surge out of Perfect, though. That'll be a big pickup. But as Hugo goes down, I think Hong Kong Attitude have realized they have cleaned this one up. There's 14 seconds remaining, which means for GrandXur, might just have to dive on top of the cut even without Hugo. They do not have any time to waste. Any further progress they can get here is going to be very important.
Hong Kong Attitude, this will be the final defense. This could be where they hold it. Oh, no way.
Couldn't get there in time.
Twice as nice, not quite getting to the cart in time, and there was the grab there as well to contest with, even if things had started to go the way once again of GrandXur. Ultimately, that was a lot of distance for GrandXur. I feel there was still a lot of issues on the defense for Hong Kong Attitude, but because it wasn't a full cap out, if Hong Kong Attitude can now repeat their success on the attack, this is very winnable.
And I think this time around, at least in that final engagement, before the end of the game happened, it's a little bit more excusable. Losing a fight at 14 seconds remaining with one member
it's
down,
hard to get back to the
trying to get back onto the cut, which is reasonably far away, very difficult to do, especially when Perfect himself still has a Graviton Surge. Hong Kong Attitude basically secured that win when they won that last fight at 14 seconds, but it's kind of everything else beforehand that was still a bit dicey. You do have to give a lot of credit to GrandXur to get the cart where it was, which is a near finish. Not quite a finish, but it's close. It does mean we're not going to go to a second time back. It will end here. We are going to have a decided winner. It's not going to be a draw either. Hong Kong Attitude do still need to put in a lot of effort to get this all the way from A to C. And the problem here is last time they got a sleep dart onto Silvercoin, who was scouting for information, didn't defensive matrix sleep dart in time, and got himself picked up because of that reason. I don't think Hong Kong Attitude are going to get themselves delivered a kill again in that fashion.
Yeah, they'll just have to win it the old-fashioned way. And I want to see them play with a bit more confidence. I want to see them take these engages. I don't want to see them just give things for free. I mean, you do that more on the defense than you do on the offense, but it's decisiveness that Hong Kong Attitude are going to need here.
They're going to go in with all 6 here. Perfect. Just do a bit of scouting on the Sombra. Going in now. Back on the Zarya. Both teams going to be playing the Goats. Ryan Goats on the one side for Hong Kong Attitude. It's the Winston version on the GrandXur side. Really just waiting for members to come through on the high ground. Hong Kong Attitude, though, wants to go low.
Yeah, and I do like this. It allows them to rotate in. They don't have that high ground, but you can just kind of hunker down here. They lose no members in the rotation. Now they're just brawling. They're just waiting it out here. Eventually, they should be able to... Oh, good separate. Oh, and a secondary bump as well. A team takes a chunk of healing, but it's still not quite going to be enough to overcome that beautiful isolation there from GrandXur to take out the main tank. And when the Reinhardt's a non-factor, I mean, the fight very quickly becomes a wash, especially with Hong Kong Attitude having no avenue to retreat. Best they can do is run for the hills to try and dive off the map.
And look at that, Marlon gets the double kill on the Boop Pistol as perfect as CQB are trying to reset, so Mango Jai is the only one that actually denies himself. That's 5 kills technically that GrandXur are able to get in terms of ultimate charge. Marlon's sitting on 90% now. He was a big factor. He was hiding up above the choke point, waiting to see when Ting was going to peek out. As soon as he does, boops into the side. The second time around, gets him far away enough to actually secure the kill and win that fight.
Same rotation now from Hong Kong Attitude. They need to not fall prey to the same tricks. And again, you see Marlon waiting there on that same position. Should we say not fall prey to the same tricks? That is the trick to which we refer.
Ting spotted him though.
Yeah, he knows it this time. There's the bump out this time. Not as effective in isolating him as a member. They're trying to keep him separated this time. Transcendence from Mango Jai keeps everyone toasty. They nearly lost Shailin. Get mixed there. Now they need to start committing these ultimates. Perfect's got that one up on Hamzy for the time being. Finding Hamzy as well. Nicely done. And this time they tunnel vision onto a Ting. They don't find the kill. Now all caught up as they are in the grab. That will be the kills beginning to come through. They can't get anything with that self-destruct. They are slow to getting his one out. But note there, it is very slow. GrandXur probably can't get a second defense here, but they've burned a good 2 minutes off the clock.
And the crazy thing is, look at Hamzy. He's on 90%, but that's off the original charge. He actually hasn't got a Graviton Surge yet. Perfect got a Graviton Surge super early. Really started to swing things around. Kill Hamzy as well. GrandXur had mostly an ultimate advantage. Marlon got a super quick sound barrier, but they couldn't fight with it. They didn't get aggressive, and they lose because of that.
Again, though, I mean, GrandXur on this defense, this is what Hong Kong Attitude weren't really doing themselves on their defense. They're going in early. They're moving ahead for the cart. So they can at the very least take a fight and slow Hong Kong Attitude down. Nice block on the Earth Shatter. Ting does not connect that one. Hamzy takes chunks. Still isolated as he is, but he gets a grab. They're all stuck in the doorway. He does trade his life for that. Unfortunately, no follow-up. That could have been a good position. A lot of very concentrated members there with nowhere really to retreat to. But now Papillon isolated. They catch him, find Heimish Silver Coin as well. That'll be all she wrote for that fight.
And this is Mango Jai 2 out of 2 with the Transcendences as well. Note that we went back to that A defense where Papillon did use a Primal Rage, instantly responded by Transcendence out of Mango Jai. Saves that fight, allows Hong Kong Attitude to win. This time around, very much the same thing. Very quick support ult charges from the Zenyatta player, just getting Hong Kong Attitude in a position where they can stay alive, can do a lot of damage, and now set up to get the Graviton Surge rolling.
But once again, this is what GrandXur have allowed themselves. They've allowed themselves a second defense here. They slow things down further. Nice placement on the grab. Transcendence out from Hugo. Self-destruct up. Still finds Papillon. That's critical. Silvercoin as well. Forced to use a self-destruct. Does not find anything with it. His Heimish still too far forward. And this will be a cap coming through as the fight win goes through as well. This is exactly what Hong Kong Attitude are after.
But I do want to make notice here, because GrandXur did force a second fight on B, something that Hong Kong Attitude cannot do on their defense, we do see a self-destruct and a Graviton Surge being used. That means Hong Kong Attitude, despite capping B, are not going to have these ready to go into siege just yet, and they are running out of time. 30 seconds remaining, and they don't have enough weapons stocked up.
They've got the sound barrier. They're coming up on a Transcendence. That could be the difference maker. That's a good Earth Shatter. The only big ultimate they really had at their disposal, aggressive ultimate, has totally paid off. Getting that main tank. Now they're able to finish off Hamzy. They're able to finish off Silvercoin. They get the tanks out of the mix here. They do get to charge up their other ultimates as well.
So this is very important. Now Papillon and the rest of GrandXur have to get out very quickly. They have an Earth Shatter, but they cannot get off this point. They need to get in quick.
It's going to be tough. Papillon does get there, but he's a man alone. The sound barrier keeps him alive. Earth Shatter big as well. A Ting on the back gets dropped down. Unfortunately, CQB's sound barrier not enough to save him, and Mango Jai chose to not pull the trigger on a Transcendence. Does it now to try and keep these remaining members in the fight. They need to get something out of this grab. It is there, but Hugo's largely countered it. Now Hamzy will start rotating into his own, but nice catch on Hamzy. VK finding that is so important. That was the real thing that GrandXur needed to turn the fight back around. Silvercoin self-destruct, not going to get anything. Everyone ducks for cover. Marlon goes down. No one left on the payload, and Hong Kong Attitude will drive it home.
And this is going to be a 2-0 start now for Hong Kong Attitude, but man, that Numbani was very close, very different to what we saw on Lee Chung-Chao, which was a much more dominant affair, much more one-sided affair going in Hong Kong Attitude's favor. On Numbani, however, you did start to really see opportunity for GrandXur to potentially take this one out, and I want to really be able to specifically zone in on one of the small plays towards the end there. The fact that Ting just caught the rest of GrandXur, especially Papillon, off guard, landed a big Earth Shatter. Like you said, was one of the only big ticket ultimates they actually had. Got that one in there, and Papillon going down was such a big deal because he had the counter Earth Shatter. If he lives, if he blocks the Ting Shatter, he responds, maybe GrandXur win there. That's going to be something that's going to be racking the heads of GrandXur as we're about to head into a break. When we do come back, we'll see what happens in the rest of the series. GrandXur now on the back foot. Hong Kong Attitude ready to win. See you after this.